Welcome, foolish mortals. Today, we are digging into a brand new mystery that's just materialized at one of Magic Kingdom's most iconic attractions, the one and only Haunted Mansion.
So, the big question is, what is Disney secretly planning for this ride? It seems like some recently discovered documents have the spirits whispering, and we're here to figure out what they're saying. And our whole investigation kicks off with, of all things, a piece of paper. Not some dusty old will, but a modern-day construction permit that has the entire Disney fan community talking. And this right here is basically the smoking gun. In late December, a permit was filed by Walt Disney Imagineering itself. Now, this isn't just for some routine repairs. When Imagineering files a permit, it means something new and creative is on the way. Okay, so let's put on our detective hats and treat this permit like a case file. We are going to break down every single clue to figure out if those 999 happy haunts are about to get some new neighbors. So let's break this down. It's filed by Imagineering, which is huge. The scope of work is pretty vague, just install set elements. But the really interesting part, the contractor they hired, a company called Mecca Productions. Oh, and look at that expiration date. This all has to be wrapped up by the end of 2026. So why is that contractor's name such a big deal? Well, Mecca Productions isn't just your average construction company. Their specialty is spooky stuff. I mean, they're known as the country's leading Halloween fabricator. You don't bring these guys in to patch up a wall, you hire them to create something genuinely bone-chilling. And this is a really crucial point. You see, if the park's facilities team filed a permit, it'd probably just be for routine maintenance. But a permit from Imagineering? That signals a creative project. We're talking about substantive, guest-facing changes. This is about storytelling, not just tightening a few bolts. All right, so with all that evidence on the table, let's jump into our first big theory. Could all this commotion just be for something happening outside the mansion? It's probably the most practical and, let's be honest, the least spooky explanation. That phrase, set elements, could easily mean stuff for the outside. You know, maybe they're finally going to rework that interactive queue that people have mixed feelings about. Or, and this is a big one, this could be tied to the huge new Cars Land being built right next door. They might need new themed walls or scenery to block the noise and keep the sightlines clean. But here's the twist. The expert who actually came up with this very practical, exterior-focused theory, even they seem to have some pretty serious doubts about it. So let's look at why. The whole problem is that the timing just feels off. It seems way too early. You would expect Disney to do all the major groundwork, pouring concrete for pads and stuff, before you bring in a specialty company to install the cool themed set pieces. The timeline just doesn't quite line up, which honestly pushes us toward a much more exciting theory. So, if the work probably isn't for the outside, well, that leaves only one other place, inside the mansion itself. And this is where the speculation gets really interesting. Okay, so let's think about this for a second. What could a company known for making bone-chilling haunted houses be installing inside one of the most famous haunted houses on the planet? Let's run down the list of the prime suspects. So the number one candidate by a long shot has to be the bride up in the attic. The current version in Magic Kingdom is, well, a lot of people call her hokey. The tech just hasn't aged very well. But if you look at the updated bride over at Disneyland, she's way more unsettling and fits the ride's tone so much better. It's a huge upgrade, and it makes total sense that Imagineering would want to bring that version over to Florida. All right, next up, we've got a much newer addition to the mansion, the fan favorite Hatbox Ghost. And while everyone was thrilled to finally see him appear, a lot of the die-hard fans, and even some Imagineers reportedly, have a little bit of an issue with where he appeared. The whole debate really comes down to story versus logistics. From a storytelling perspective, his current location just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But would Disney really go through all the trouble of moving a complex animatronic so soon after they installed it? The general feeling is that he'll probably get moved eventually, but this permit might be for something else. And that brings us to the most controversial theory of all, and it has to do with the stretching room. This quote from the legendary Imagineer Kim Irvine confirms that they've at least talked about changing that iconic hanging scene, mostly because of how sensitive the subject matter is. But let's just be super clear here. This is considered highly, highly unlikely to happen. That scene is just too iconic, too historic. There's a real reverence for the original ride inside Imagineering, and a change this massive probably isn't in the cards, especially not for the first time at Walt Disney World. So, we've looked at all the evidence, we've explored the different theories. Where does that leave us? Let's take a look at the actual timeline and figure out when we might see these changes, whatever they end up being.
So when could this work actually go down? Well, we know that other big rides like Big Thunder Mountain are already scheduled for lengthy refurbishments in early 2026. It's really unlikely Disney would close another major ride at the same time. That points to a probable work window in the back half of the year, which lines up perfectly with that permit expiring at the end of December. And there's one last wild card to consider. What if the ride doesn't close down at all? It's totally possible that these new set elements could be installed overnight while the park is empty. We could just show up one morning and, surprise, a new ghost has moved in. So we're left with that one final question. Is this all for a simple fix to the queue, or are we about to see a major haunting upgrade inside the mansion? The evidence definitely points towards something spooky, but for now, I guess only the ghosts know for sure. Keep your eyes open. You never know what might follow you home next.